All right, Heidi-ho neighbors, we're back. This is Mrs. Smith here, talking about lesson 2.2, negative exponents. So negative exponents is just what it means. It's going to have a negative exponent. But before we can do that, I want to kind of do some observing, some looking at things. And let's start with that zero exponent property that we started with yesterday. So zero exponent property says anything to the 0 power equals 1. So 10 to the 0 power is 1, and I'm going to start there. Now, from here, let's go up. It says 10 to the first power. Well, 10 to the first power is just 10. 10 to the second power. 10 to the second power means 10 times 10. And 10 times 10 is, hopefully you said 100. All right, and 10 to the third power would be 10 times 10 times 10, which would equal 1,000. And hopefully you see a pattern, because that's kind of why I wanted you to do this. So probably 10 to the fourth power, not probably, it is 10,000. You just add another 0. So hopefully you saw that pattern. All right, from there, we're going to go down. And if you notice, look at how it says to the negative first power. So now we're going to talk about those negative exponents. And that's what your I can statement is today. I can explain and use the negative exponent property. Now, 10 to the negative 1 power. Any guesses? Well, go ahead and put that into your calculator. So 10 to the negative 1 power. When you get 10 to the negative 1 power, when you put that into your calculator, you should come up with 0.1. Did you get 0.1? But I don't want it as a decimal. So what does 0.1, and we did this in the last chapter, look like as a fraction? We're going to deal with fractions. 1/10 would be 1 over, and then what place is it in? It's in the tens place. So this would be 1/10. And then 10 to the negative 2. Go ahead and put that into your calculator. Give you a second. What did you get? Did you get 0.01? Cool. But again, I don't want it as a decimal. I want it as a fraction. So that would be 1, and this is tenths hundredths. It'd be 1 over 100. Are you seeing a pattern here? Hopefully you are. 10 to the negative third power, you probably don't need to put it into your calculator. You know it's going to be 1 over 1,000. Part of being a good math student is you start to notice patterns, and that's what we got going on there. All right, so I want to stop there, and I want to talk about some patterns that I see. Let me pick up some highlighters. So I want you to kind of go right there. That's kind of where we started with that 0 power. And so I'm going to do that. From there, I'm going to pick up, let's pick up that purple. And if you notice, from here to here, we've got 10 to the first power, which is 10, and 10 to the negative first power is 1/10. See how those match up? It's kind of interesting. All right, so now let's pick up another color. Let's do that green. And we have 10 to the second power, and if we match it up with 10 to the negative second power, notice what we have, 100 and 1 over 100. All right, let's go again. How about that blue? And 10 to the third power, and 10 to the negative third power. So 1,000 and 1 over 1,000. So now, if you noticed, we don't really have a, what do I want to do? Maybe this fun pink. 10 to the fourth power is 10,000, and I don't have a 10 to the fourth power, but we can certainly add it. And I bet you can add your answer. 10 to the negative fourth power is 1 over 10,000. You got it. So I drew this yellow line because I want you to notice everything above here is greater than 1. Okay, so 1 is kind of our dividing, that 10 to the 0 power. That's kind of the middle. And everything above this is going to be greater than 1. Did you notice what happened after that dividing if we went down? Everything became a fraction, and everything was less than 1. And that's going to be important to know because that's going to help us with our negative exponents. So here we go, negative exponent. So you see it's in a box, so that means you need to be responsible for it. Okay, it says a negative exponent, the answer is less than 1. Well, we just proved that up above. You're right. All of these had negative exponents right here. These ones, this one, this one, this one, this one. Oh, not that one. This one, this one, this one, and this one. And were my answers all less than 1? They were. You take the reciprocal. Do you remember that word? I'm sure you've heard it before, especially dealing with fractions. I think I spelled it wrong. R-O-C-A-L, reciprocal. Do you remember? Reciprocal is just fancy for flip. Flip of the entire expression and drop the negative sign. So you take the flip of the entire expression and you drop the negative sign. So here's essential characteristics. If you have 3 to the negative 4th power, here are the steps you take. 1, put a 1 under it if necessary. Put a 1 under it if necessary. Step 2. Take the reciprocal. So, in other words, flip it. And then 3, drop the negative sign. Drop the negative sign. And step 4, simplify. Now, I know that's a lot to put that in box, but you'll get it. And you're going to need those steps, probably a lot. So let's do those steps for 3 to the negative 4th power in the example. So step number 1 says put a 1 under it. So I put a 1 under it. Step number 2 says, maybe I'll do this too. Step number 1. Okay. Step number 2 says take the reciprocal or flip it. So that means I'm going to put 1 and 3 over. And then when I flip it, I have to drop the negative sign. So maybe I'll go like this in green and I'll say, oh, I dropped the negative sign. That's kind of the trade-off for flipping. You have to drop the negative sign. And then last but not least is to simplify. And maybe I'll put in this color. So simplify, which means I have to just calculate 3 to the 4th power. So in my calculator, I put 3 to the 4th power and it is 81. And it's less than 1. It's got a negative exponent, but it's a fraction. You got to leave it as a fraction. It's less than 1, and that's what negative exponents are. And I'm going to say leave as a fraction. A lot of you are going to want to give me the decimal for it, and no can do. I want it left as a fraction. Okay, so what are some non-examples of this? Well, 10 to the 3rd power. What's wrong with that? Well, it doesn't have a negative, so there's no negative involved. Maybe I want what color do I want? I already have a blue, a green. Let's see. Let's see. Let's go right about here. Okay, so, oops, I didn't even switch it. Oh, it didn't do it. So here you have no negative. So that doesn't make it a negative exponent. And here, what if I have this example? Negative 2 to the 4th power. It's not a negative exponent because the negative is not on the exponent, and it's got to be on the exponent. So that little guy flying high. Okay? All right, so some notes. The negative exponent flips it to the opposite area, bottom or top, and you drop the negative sign, then solve. So let's do some examples. Here we go. Number 1, 3 to the negative third power. 3 to the negative third power. So step number 1, put a 1 under it. Step number 2, flip it. So it'd be 1 over 3 to the third. And step number 4, simplify. So 1 over and then 3 to the third is 27. That's what you need to do. Here we go. Number 2, 6 to the negative third power. Step number 1, put a 1 under it. Step number 2, flip it. When you flip it, I didn't say this last time, but when you flip it, you drop the negative sign. That's kind of the trade-off. You flip, you drop. And then step number 3 is simplify. And 6 to the third power, put it in your calculator. 216. Okay, let's do another. Number 3, 4 to the negative 2 power. Step number 1, put a 1 under it. Step number 2, flip it. And when you flip it, drop the negative sign. And then step number 3, simplify. 4 to the second power is 16. Here we go. Number 4, 18 to the negative 2 power. Step number 1, hopefully you're saying, put a 1 under it. Step number 2, what do? We flip it and drop the negative sign. That's the trade. And then step number 3, we simplify. 18 squared is 324. All right, well, not too bad, right? So let's introduce some variables. So what if I have x to the negative 8th? Again, negative exponent. You do the same thing, ladies and gentlemen. Put a 1 under it. Take the reciprocal or flip it. 1 over x to the 8th. When you flip it, drop the negative sign and simplify. Well, I don't know what x stands for, so there's no simplifying. Dun-da-da-da, I'm done. Not too bad. Let's try number 6. C to the negative third. Step number 1, put a 1 under it. Step number 2, flip it and drop the negative sign. Step number 3, simplify. I can't, so la 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 la, I'm done. All right. So let's kind of stop there for today. No, you know what? Yeah, let's stop there for today. All right, have a good one.